I mean, that is wild that you discovered you had a foot fetish from the new Overwatch skin. But I mean, it's cool that games are teaching us a lot about ourselves, and that Overwatch marketing for the new, what's the character's name? I forget. Sombra? No, I
have no idea but I took a stab in the dark and hoped that I was right.
Oh, you missed the Overwatch marketing then for the new feet skins, did you?
I did, yeah.
Oof.
Actually, no, wait. No, I did, because I saw a tweet from someone retweeting that Blizzard apparently has gone full degen, and they're joking about it.
Yeah, I mean, they literally marketed a new character skin. I forgot what the character's name is because I don't play Overwatch anymore. But it was like, check out her feet, and they were like exposed feet, and it was just doing like up close shots, and then there's like foot emojis in the tweet and all that stuff. And every response is just like, dear God, what are you guys doing?
Yep.
It was amazing.
Pretty wild how much more acceptable that is compared to everything else.
Dude, there's like furries just walking around at the grocery store now. There's feet.
Do you actually see furries at grocery stores?
No, but
what do you mean that?
I was watching. We were watching Citizencon over the weekend, and there was like a full-on furry dude there, and oh man, you're just like, it's just what it is now. Like, this isn't even a furry convention. They're showing up at all the conventions now.
I guess
just
so.
Like, it's a con. Furry con? No, we'll get some furries in there. Why not?
Why not?
Anyway, welcome to the Level With Me podcast, everyone. We missed a week there. It was kind of my fault, kind of my neighbor's fault. We'll get into that in a second. But thank you guys for bearing with us over our week off, quote unquote. And if you guys want to support the podcast, we have our Patreon links down below. You can come watch us record it live on Mondays and join us for the post-podcast show afterwards. Chat with us in the comments while we're doing it. I'm excited to get into the news this week, Matt, because I mean...
A lot happened.
A lot happened, and I mean, not just foot skins that, I know that was a highlight for you, but Star Citizen, oh man, it was just like an info bomb. I may as well start off talking about what happened to my internet last week.
Explain why you were not here.
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
So it was Monday, the day we normally record the podcast, wake up in the morning, get my coffee, start doing some work. Neighbor's excavating his backyard, which he's been doing for like a week. So I don't think much of it other than hearing a giant excavator going down the block. He's like maybe 2 houses away or something like that. He's excavating through a previously paved path, which apparently the city has removed their, forgot what they call it, but the city can like kind of have a domain over private property. Yeah, easement. That's what it is. Apparently the easement has been removed. And so he's like, I'll just expand my backyard into this paved road area.
Which is reasonable.
Fair enough. I get it. You want more stuff. He was kind of destroying a magical path that the neighborhood used to get to a park, but whatever,
Okay. Well, never mind. I take it back. Screw that.
Yeah, we were kind of annoyed about it, but it is what it is. I hear the excavator going. All of a sudden, internet goes down. Natalie, my wife, who also works at home, is like, hey, is the internet down for you? And we're like, uh-oh, this isn't good. Check the router, check all the stuff. Everything's up and running fine. I noticed that the excavator has stopped running for a moment. I go out, like, hey, did you guys by chance cut through some cables? And we like look down, and there's like a tube. I kid you not, like it's wine bottle size in girth. Just chopped in half, and they had already removed 40 feet of cable from the backyard. This is a fiber line. The whole block went down for fiber access. And anyway, a crew showed up pretty quickly afterwards, like I had called and stuff. But first thing the guy said to me was just like, money. Like, this is going to cost money. Like...
Not you, though.
Not me, yeah. And I don't even know if it's going to be the neighbor, if they're going to go after the city, whatever it is. Like, I don't...
Someone's going to have to pay.
Someone's going to have to pay, but I think that fiber repair job was like, like thousands upon... Like, we're not talking 10,000.
So he saw this massive cable while he was excavating and thought to himself, you know what? I'm not going to contact anyone. I'm just going to cut it and move it because it's in my way. What was his thought process behind that? Did he accidentally do it? Was it?
No, I think they had excavated the cable and like maybe called up one company or something, was like, you think this is anything? They're like, I don't know, it's not ours. And then he went, okay. I honestly don't know. He was apparently 5 feet off from cutting power to the entire neighborhood too. And it was literally a red wire and green wire situation. And he just cut the green one and we only lost internet as opposed to like everything.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what the aftermath is for him, but we had a crew that worked all through the night to get that thing repaired for like, they did a pretty good job. But anyway, that's why I didn't do the podcast Monday or anything else requiring the internet Monday.
That's wild.
Or most of Tuesday. But yeah, that was fun. Fun little situation, and I posted it online and other people were like, yep, that sounds like my neighbor too. You know, I don't think I'm the only one with a neighbor who's like, I think I'll dig down, see what we find in the backyard.
See what I find. It's on my property. I can cut it if I want to.
Yeah.
Man, that's going to be expensive if he has to pay for that.
Yeah, I was seeing chat was like estimating costs for repairs. I saw people like in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I was just like, whoa.
That's not some. Oh my God, that's like a life-changing amount of money too.
Somebody quoted $10,000 per foot of like cable drop, but I don't know if that's true or not. That sounds prohibitively expensive for laying fiber.
Yeah, that sounds a little much. But what do we know, right?
Yep, I don't know. I'm just happy I got internet back, and I just don't want anything to do with it anymore. I'm like, if somebody's going to sue somebody, I want to be as far away from that as possible.
Yep.
But yeah, I was literally thinking about, I was like, dang, like I wish I had Starlink as backup or something, you know, some cable-less system at that point.
Yeah.
But luckily, I got everything back up and running for Citizencon, which I was scheduled to stream over the weekend.
And boy, did you. 10 hours and 7 hours back to back.
They don't mess around at Citizencon. I mean, the info...
They do.
Yeah, they do. That's fair. They did mess around. Now, how much of Citizencon did you catch by chance?
I watched a decent amount. Well, I didn't watch 10 hours and 7 hours, but I was able to catch a little bit of your streams for a couple hours. And then I was like, I can't just keep watching this all day. I got other things I want to do.
You didn't want to show up for the full 10 hours? It was, what the heck, Mac? I thought you were a hardcore fan.
I know.
It was very long and chock full of info the whole time, by the way. It wasn't like they took breaks in between panels, but the info panels were just dense. Like I just wrote a script making the whole thing concise, and it still ends up being like 50 minutes. I'm just like, that's how
50
much.
50 or 15?
50 minutes of cutting down all the important info. Citizencon is the Star Citizen event that they do every year. And regardless of how you feel about Star Citizen, the event is insanity. And what I want to know, Matt, is did you catch the Squadron 42 prologue demo?
I watched a little bit of it, but not the full hour and a half, no.
Okay. They posted it online, which is what I would recommend watching, because during the demo...
And that's what I watched, yeah.
Okay. The big event was that
gorgeous.
Oh my God, dude. It's
like next level insanity. The amount of attention to detail, all the animations, the characters, the way that like it's shot. It's a movie. Stunning. It's a movie, right? Yeah.
I think that the prologue shows a space battle sequence in Squadron 42, and it's like star-studded. You got Gary Oldman as the Admiral, Mark Strong's like his second in command. You got Henry Cavill as like the backup squadron leader. Gillian Anderson is captain of a destroyer class ship in there. I mean, it is just amazing cast and crew, and it's shot like a movie. Like all the scenes, all the cutting, everything is like cinematography shots. I think the space battle holds up against like movie space battles. Like I would have got my bucket of popcorn and watched it because it was that long, but it was incredible.
It was very on rails, and it was a lot of cutscenes. Yes. I didn't see all of it. And the gameplay, when at the very end you fight the aliens, and it's a little janky.
Duel. Yeah.
It's a little janky. So that was a bit worrisome when you when you see the FPS combat, but it's hard to argue that it's you can tell that where the money went. It went into the graphics and the cinematography because it is wild.
Also, you know what's crazy to think about, and I kept trying to wrap my head around this, is that gameplay demo is probably the most intense amount of visuals I've ever seen crammed into a game for that length of time. Like most games are like, we're going to hit you hard with the visuals, and then you'll have a long walking sequence between zones or something like that. And you're like, okay, they really put a lot of effort into this area, but I don't know if Star Citizen's going to pull their foot off the gas for the rest of the game. And they said the campaign's 30 to 40 hours. I'm like, if it's 30 to 40 hours of that production value, that will be like a new record for, I think, the industry in terms of just like money value or whatever, production value, density, whatever you want to call it.
And they did announce a release window, which was 2026.
Ooh, that was hard to hear. That was a tough pill to swallow. The first day of the convention it was like an 8-hour long stream, 9-hour long stream. It was very long, and it was pretty cool info the whole way through. People were getting hyped. There's some really great panels on stuff. And they bookend it with that amazing demo, which unfortunately crashed twice because they were doing it live on stage, which I feel bad for them, but that's a Chris thing.
People were giving a really hard time online because it's, the whole scam citizen thing. It's like, it's a demo, guys, especially if they're going to be 2026. Like,
I was surprised how hard they were on the demo because it was jaw-droppingly gorgeous. Like, I don't know.
You know why they were hard on it? And I kind of get it. It's because it's Star Citizen. And it's like, you've had over a decade now and $800 million. And they kind of deserve a little bit of the criticism. But
sure. Yeah. It's totally fair. And so then they end that demo with a little screen that says coming 2026 or whatever. And while it's disappointing to think about potentially 2 more years of waiting until we get to play that, last year at Citizencon, they basically announced that Squadron 42 was 1, feature complete,
right,
and 2, entering a polish phase of development.
Right.
Now, that was exactly 1 year ago when they said that. Mm-hmm. So when you hear a game is going into a polish phase, do you think that means 3 years of polish?
No.
Yeah.
Not normally.
Nor did anybody else in the audience. Like there was a noticeable energy shift in a room that was filled with 4,000 crazy fans after that came up. And we were talking to some people after the convention as we covered it who were there, and they're just like, you could feel the energy change after that, because the running joke since like 2014 is that Squadron 42 is 2 years away, because it's always been 2 more years. We need 2 more years.
2 more years.
2 more years. And now it's 2024. And guess what?
It's another 2 more years.
It's 2 more years. And
it's not even a release date. It's a window, right?
Nope.
It's just it's coming in 2 more years.
A year is not a release date. A year is a very vague period of time that could easily slip into another entirely different period of time.
100%. Yeah, I'm not expecting it in 2026, if I'm being completely honest with you. So
yeah, that's what a lot of people were saying. They're like, and look at you people thinking you're getting it in 2026, you suckers. So that was tough.
It will give time for me to accumulate enough capital to buy multiple 5090s to be able to play the game at a reasonable frame rate whenever that comes out. So, that's good, right?
There you go. Yeah, you'll finally have a computer fast enough to play the game. Yep. Now, the second day, I'm not going to go through the whole panel because the whole thing is
completely reasonable,
super long. But the highlight of the second day was pretty impressive in terms of, especially if you're a fan of the game, the features that they're adding was just like, what? But they bookended the second day with a panel called Star Citizen 1.0, where they defined what the release vision for the game was, and not in a vague sense, but in here's how many star systems you're getting, here's the actual gameplay loops that are going to be in the game. Here's what you can do if you're a non-combat player, if you're a PvE player, and if you're a PvP player. Here's how they'll mesh together. And they went through each category and each level of thing and very clearly defined what will be in the game for a 1.0 launch. And it felt attainable. It didn't feel like this crazy nebulous area where before everybody was arguing about what Star Citizen was going to be, and everybody had their own slightly...
So what is Star Citizen going to be?
So it's going to be 5 solar systems.
We have 1, 2 kind of right now, right?
Yeah, 2-ish.
But more like 1.
More like 1.
And the second one's sort of in the works.
The second one is there, just being held back by server meshing, which...
of course.
They were trying to get that ready for Citizencon. They were like jamming, and everybody who is an Evocati and PTU was testing it the weeks leading up. They're like, well, I mean, the second system's there, but like the servers are just not super stable right now, so probably not going to get there. But yeah, that would be 3 more systems afterwards, and then pretty considerable amount of quality of life features, but also gameplay loop integration of just crafting, base building, a reason for doing all of that stuff and progressing in the universe.
So the gist that I got, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't able to watch all of it, but in a kind of concise way, Star Citizen is going to be a game about emergent gameplay where you create your own stories based off of the sandbox that they've given you, which is already kind of what Star Citizen is.
A huge portion of it. Yeah, but there will also be a big narrative element, which was designed in the 1.0.
Which is great. So there'll be your PvE stuff where you'll go out and you'll just, if you don't want to fight anyone, you don't have to do that. You can go out and you can salvage, you can go on a couple of missions and stuff like that, get your resources, get your crafting material, because crafting is now going to be a big thing. And you're going to take that crafting material, you could make a base with it, you could go and make a ship with it, you could make bunches of different things.
Guns,
but it really
armor,
seems like it really seems like crafting is going to be the main drive of the economy and of the game. So you go off, you make a little base for yourself and you and your buddies, you then mine for resources, and if you're in a safe system, you don't have to worry about people attacking your base. You can just live your life, slowly growing your empire, or whatever you want to call it, and kind of experience the game at your own pace. Or you could go into a high risk, high reward location where there's potentially more valuable resources where you can set up a base, but then people can come and raid your base and take out your stuff. And so then it becomes much more interesting. And because it's economy focused, where you're going to be selling your ships, you're risking your ships also. Apparently the whole infrastructure or the insurance system is going to be much more punishing, where it's like you really do not want to lose your ships because it costs a lot. Then now it's about, I need to transport these resources, not only from my risky base, but now I need to go through space. And if anyone takes me out and they steal that, like that's now a thing I have to think about. So it's all of the emergent gameplay that can be interwoven into that, which I think is going to be the real meats and potatoes from what I saw. Yep.
I think you got a pretty good grasp on it. And yeah, a big point of the new insurance explanations and also the crafting system made it so that people who bought these super expensive ships, while they are getting an advantage, they're not taking away a huge amount of like grinding and work you'd have to do to get the ship initially. You're only getting a tier 1 version of that ship, and there's 5 tiers for ships now. So you can upgrade that ship to another tier, but it's going to require a huge amount of progression in the game, probably working with an org, getting the people with the right skills, generating the resources, and then upgrading that ship.
Yeah.
And then the insurance system is only going to cover the base hull of the ship, so it's not going to cover your components or your decorations or any of that other stuff. You are, like any other player, going to have to pay more for those bigger levels of insurance. So I think they did a good job of trying to remove a chunk of the pay to win from Star Citizen. It's not gone. I can
still there.
Buy a giant spaceship and start off with the giant spaceship, but I'm not going to be able to get my Javelin Destroyer on day one and be like, let's upgrade it with all the cool stuff. It's like, no, that might take me a year to get there. Who knows?
You'll still have it though, which is
yes.
It's still pay to win, but whatever. Like
they did say that the new claim times on ships are going to be equal to the crafting times on ships. So I don't know how long it takes to craft a Javelin Destroyer. But I'm imagining a very long time.
Yeah.
So if I lose it in game, it'll be like, well, you can get it back. I'm like, yeah, in what, a week or something? So I don't know how long it's going to take.
I mean, I got to admit, like the fantasy, and this is all fantasy. We're not able to play this, but the idea of starting small with your little ship, you make a base, you and your buddies go out, you maybe find some other people's bases. And this was what's going to be really cool is you're going to go and find other people's locations and it's all going to be player created, right? So that's so cool to be just, have like an ecosystem out there where you're creating your own little universe.
And I should say they showed off the base building during the thing. So we're not just like, wouldn't it be neat if you could do this? Or they said you will be able to. They showed off the base building and it was way more extensive than I thought we were going to see. And it wasn't just base building, it was space station building.
That's what's crazy. Yeah, so
that was crazy.
You start small, and then by the end, if you have a huge organization, all those resources you've been gathering and the riches you've been getting can eventually lead to you having your own freaking space station.
Yeah.
So it's cool, but oh my god, the amount of feature creep, dude! Like holy, the space station idea is incredible.
That wasn't feature creep in the sense of it. They've said that for a long time, but it is part of the initial feature creep, I guess. Okay.
Still, I didn't know about space stations coming to the game, so it was kind of feature creep to me. But you're right. You're absolutely right. Okay. So awesome, cool. If they can finally pull it off, but my god, when is the game actually going to release? All this stuff is really cool, but my goodness.
Yeah, I don't know. And that was kind of one of my major points of sort of coming out of 2 days of Citizencon was like, this all looks really cool. What am I going to do in the short term between now and then? Because normally Citizencon is like, and in 12 months or in 6 months or whatever, you get that. And this one was a lot less of that. There were a couple of features. They did say we're getting base building within 12 to 18 months. Which is a pretty big window, and that we are going to get basically monster hunting, which would be fighting the giant sandworm and killing this massive sandworm creature and then harvesting it for its resources and stuff like that.
So one enemy?
There's obviously going to be more stuff in there, but that's all they said during Citizencon, where you're like, I mean, we're going to get more, right, over the next year and a half, right?
The worm looked cool.
It did look cool. It looked a little clunky, but
for a massive thing, I think they did a pretty good job with the animations.
Compared to other MMOs where all the giant creatures have to be...
They just sort of fly through the air and then goes down like it's a dolphin or something. Yeah.
And have a super scripted animation where it just kind of swings and hits a thing and does 2,000 damage and whatever. Yeah, the worm looked far more interactive, and the logic behind it seemed pretty interesting, where you have to have a guy in a vehicle bait it out. Like it's like Dune.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah, you have to have somebody on the ground creating like vibrations to bait the worm out. Right. And then you can try and hit it with whatever you have, but unless you got that guy down there that's like, guys, I need backup.
There's just a dude on the back of the truck. Ah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also if the worm kills that guy, does it then go back down? Do you need a fresh supply of red shirts down there being like, all right, Bob.
Get in there, soldier. Yeah.
Kevin got smushed. Bob, you're up next. A lot of really, really impressive stuff during the thing. Even their visual.
What were your overall thoughts?
Overall thoughts was that everything they showed looked fantastic and funny enough, like stuff like their party system and their org management system looked like some of the most exciting quality of life updates, where I can send you a link to my location in chat and you can just click it and map to it, which is like,
wow.
Yeah. Like that alone is alleviates so much pain in the butt stuff that Star Citizen is. And so that was very exciting. Everything they showed was super exciting. The gut punch was that 2026 release date for Squadron 42. And that sort of emanated out into the rest of the features where we're like, are we getting any of this stuff before 2026? Did I say 2022? 2026, whenever. So it was all so cool, but coming away feeling a little jaded because of the delay. It seems like we're almost past, we should be past the delay meme of Star Citizen at this point, and they just keep doing it. Keep
pushing it.
Like, how can they keep doing this delay meme? It's insanity.
Yeah.
But,
well, cool. Yeah. It's exciting, but yeah, I can tell some fatigue seems to be setting in, at least for you and maybe the community as well.
Whole hardcore fan base got a bit fatigued by the delay stuff there, and we'll see what it means for them financially. I think they have a lot of new people coming in enough to help keep the project fully funded. The
new ships too. They're like, hey, and buy our new ships for hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yep. They announce base building, and then they show off a bunch of base building ships, and you're like, well, I wanna do the base building, so I gotta buy the base building ship, you have
to have a ship to be able to base build.
You don't have to, but like it'll be better if you do. Like they did. That was a nice thing about base building is they showed the level 1 version of base building, which is kind of your cabin in the woods, kind of smaller hab area. They do it with a unit that can fit inside a really small ship. So I think the ship you own can fit that base building module in it. And then you can park it, take out that module, and start building things and going and collecting resources and supplying it while it builds out your base. So I'm like, that's great that they're making that accessible to newer players. As opposed to just making it an org activity.
An organization activity, right.
Yeah, because that does put me off as games that are like, isn't this cool? You just need 50 players. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do that.
That would suck if you couldn't even build something small.
That would suck. So yeah, I'm here, but I think myself and many other veteran players at this point have kind of like, we've closed our wallets for quite a while for the game, and it's
as you should.
Yeah. And I hope they can make it to the finish line.
Yeah. What they've showed off, it's exciting to finally see the vision of the game and the systems that's going to fuel the actual gameplay. So that was nice and reassuring to see. Finally, actually some gameplay loop being implemented.
Yep. That was super exciting because the first panel was like a 2-hour panel. It was like, look how good our visual tech is progressing. And it was impressive. Like they showed some really cool storm systems on planets. And you're like, dang, this looks as good as any game I've ever seen, but it's planet wide. That's insane. But it also wasn't gameplay, right? It was just like, here's all the cool visual stuff. And everybody's like, gameplay.
Your game already looks pretty. We just need the game now.
Yep. So we'll see what happens next year. They promised a huge amount last year and delivered a little bit of it, but it was very little gameplay. They promised very little to be delivered over the next year. So maybe we'll get surprised by the amount of stuff that comes into the game. Who knows?
Yeah.
Either way, I'm kind of standing on the sidelines and I will jump in when cool stuff happens, as has generally been how I approach the game.
Cool.
Yeah. What have you been up to? What have you been playing?
All sorts of stuff. I played the Starship Troopers update. I played Off the Grid. I played a lovely little game called A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead. Which would you like to discuss first, Levelcap?
Is The Quiet Place? That's not based on the movie, is it?
Oh, it is.
Oh. Well, I'm curious now.
Oh, I got a key for it from the dev. So, just full disclosure and everything. And I hated it.
Full disclosure, just so you know, it's not sponsored. I hated this game. I don't think they paid for that ad, Matt.
Well, they didn't pay me anything. They just gave me a key. So it starts off interesting. So you basically it's like it's set 100 days after the do you even know anything about A Quiet Place at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the movie.
Okay, so it's for those of you that are unaware, aliens basically show up in the world, and they crash land, and they are like very, very tuned to just noise. They can't see, they're blind. They can hear you, and if you make any noise at all, they'll beeline straight for you and kill you, right? So that's basically
horrifically, by the way.
Yeah, horrifically. Yeah. They will absolutely mess you up.
Yeah.
And so they tried to incorporate that into a game, which means you constantly have to worry about the noise you make, right?
I like that idea, kind of. That could be cool.
Kind of, right? So you need to watch out for cans on the ground. You need to make sure that you're stepping on surfaces that are not going to be making any loud noises, like a wood plank or leaves or anything like that. So there's theoretically an somewhat interesting gameplay loop there, but that I just described is basically the entire game. You are slowly walking around this world, just crab walking, and then you come up to a door and you just
You know what's great about that, Matt?
Open the door.
Is they can be like, we have 100 hours of gameplay. And you're like, yeah, that's because you made an 8-hour game. You just slowed it down. God.
But they made like a 3-hour game and slowed it down to 8.
Oh my God. That's pretty brutal.
It was tough.
Yeah.
Like legitimately. So there's a door opening mechanic. You have to open up drawers. You have to open up doors. You have to open up like everything in this game requires you to open. And you have to use your mouse or your controller. And you have to literally slowly move your mouse forward or backward, depending on the direction, to open every single thing. And if you do it too quickly, it makes a noise and then they come over and kill you.
How do they approve this stuff is what I want to know.
That's the game.
This is, my brain always goes to like the dev side of things on what the heck were they thinking, you know, like in the studio.
That was my thought too.
Yeah. Because what you would want to do with this game from a design standpoint is you would want to, as quickly as possible, get to the gameplay of like, is it fun to move slowly and open things super slowly?
Slowly, yeah.
And then when they find out after rapid prototyping for a month that it's not fun, you either pivot or give up on the project entirely, and you only waste a month's worth of dev time and money. But they kept going for some reason.
They also ruined the tent. It wasn't scary at all for me personally, and maybe I've just become a hardcore veteran horror aficionado. But so the creatures will be in the room with you almost all the time. So you'll just see it walking around next to you as you're slowly creeping around. You'll like make a slight noise and be like, oh, and then you have to stop and just sit there. And then sometimes it will just wander into you, and then if it hits you, you die. It will be like, oh, there you are, and then it eats you.
Cool.
So there'll be moments where you get literally stuck in a corner and you have like no ways of getting out of the corner, and it will just slowly run into you and then kill you. And you're like, oh great, now I have to do that entire segment all over again where I have to slowly walk from point A to point B.
And that's probably really bad game design and bad balance and stuff like that. So you just get to enough points where instead of being terrified, you're just annoyed because you're like, you see it coming, you're like, cool, now I got to start the whole level over again.
Yes.
I love this game. It's so much fun. It
seems like they were trying to channel a little bit of, what is it called? Alien Isolation? Mm-hmm. Alien Isolation was fantastic.
Yeah.
But it was because they were able to build the tension more, and you knew that the alien was nearby, but you didn't always know where it was. And it wasn't like always this omniscient presence that was like always around, right?
Yeah.
So there was like moments of levity and moments of just like, very chill and calm. And then it starts to ramp up. It's always nearby. You always have to like worry about your audio. And it was tedious. Oh, also, do you like picking up planks, putting them down, walking the plank, picking it back up, and then placing another plank down and walking across?
I mean, like, do that a couple times for like environmental puzzle gameplay. Sure, that sounds cool. But you're saying it was just like tons of that?
This is the game.
Yeah. Okay.
It was rough. So visually, great. Visually, the monsters look fantastic. The world looked great. Like, I don't know if it's the engine that they were using. Maybe it's Unreal. That's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But visually, it's solid. But maybe I'm just being a negative Nancy, and the gameplay is a lot better for others, but I found it to be unbelievably tedious by the end. I was just waiting for it to end because I did beat it. It took me 8 hours. I beat it and I got an experience. It was a game of 2024.
Mm-hmm. Were you whispering while you're streaming? You're like,
no. So they had that whole like they had a mic mechanic where if you make noise, it will find you and kill you.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So because it's supposed to be more immersive, right? Like if you make any noise,
that's a terrible idea. Like your dog's gonna start barking and then the thing finds it.
Or if you sneeze or something, right? There was a streamer who had it on and he sneezed and it came over and killed him, which I think is actually kind of clever. I think that's fine. But first of all, I was streaming it and I don't want to just sit silently there while I stream. Because then just watch a video or a movie,
like,
you know?
Thank you for the donation, chat. Thank you so much.
Well, not even that. It's just to talk about anything, right? Like when you can't talk at all, like you're just watching a video. So I mean, there's the reactions. You know what I mean? So it wasn't. I just turned that off. But also the whole part is, in my opinion, the mic system is in place where if it's legitimately scary and you're like, oh, right. But I never had a single moment like that where there was tension. So it never hit me. There would never have been like an accidental spook where I got taken out because I made a noise, right?
Yeah. It's sad because I can envision a really good game coming out of the Quiet Place franchise, but it just seems like they couldn't figure it out. Yeah,
it's the gameplay, the core gameplay I just didn't think was for me. Maybe some other people will enjoy it. I don't want to like completely trash the game, but I just found slowly moving around, doing everything slowly just to be incredibly monotonous by the end.
Sloth Simulator, the game.
Which is what they had to do in the show and everything, in the movie, right? It's
but the movie's a movie and it's fantastic. And
right.
At least the first one. I haven't seen any of the sequels.
Second one's pretty good. I heard the third is a little rough, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. I just figured the second one was going to be the same thing. So I was like, I've already seen the first one, you know?
So. Yeah. So I don't know if I would, it doesn't get my thumbs up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I did also play Off the Grid. Do you ever get a chance to play that?
It sounds really familiar. I'm trying to, what is it? Off the Grid. Like,
so you know the creator of District 9?
Oh, no, I didn't get to play that. Is that the crypto game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So I avoided it. I dislike Neil Blomkamp, the guy who directed District 9.
Oh, you don't like him? Okay, all right.
Well, I like District 9, but he's
that was my like one introduction and really only introduction to his work.
He did Chappie also, which I thought was garbage. Yeah. He's like a one-trick pony. He did one good movie, and then everything else felt like it was kind of trying to feed off of that style, and everybody gave him all this money and he couldn't make another good movie for the life of him.
Replicate it.
Now he's like, I don't think anyone's given him any money for movies, and he's like doing some junky game stuff on the side, or I don't know how involved he was with this game. He might have just been like creative.
I think he's very involved because there's a ton of cutscenes which incorporate, it's real footage of real people, but they give them like prosthetics and stuff, and they like will punch walls, and it's very much in the style of District 9, where it's a very shaky cam kind of situation to make you feel like you're there, which kind of loses a little bit of its novelty and its realism, because now everyone has cameras with like super stability. Everyone's like phones are so high tech that like a shaky cam doesn't really make sense anymore, because you know what I mean? Anyways, so but the videos are like well done. I think he's also playing a character. There is the announcer, and I think it's him, according to chat, where he just comes up with like a bunch of witty things to tell you, really inappropriate things. Like he says, like, if you piss your pants, I'm gonna shove that pants like down your throat or something like that. But like way worse than that in some situations. Really just kind of like edgelord stuff, which is, fine for, people that like that. It's whatever. Yeah. The gameplay, when it's fun, it's fun. Like you're flying around. You've got these like a ton of different options. It's like a battle royale. If you're not aware, it's like a BR, but with an extraction mode.
I did like the idea of your limbs being your modifiable things. Right. So like your limbs they're essentially cut off, right? And replaced with mechanical arms and legs, and then those can have different properties and modifiers on them to give you different combat abilities, and you can switch them during the round. So instead of picking up somebody else's gun, which I think you can do anyway, but you can also pick up somebody else's limbs.
You pick up their arm.
Yeah. You're like, oh, sick. And then you can lose them mid-combat.
Correct.
Which I thought was also a really cool idea. So from that perspective, I was like, that's pretty original. That's like...
it's neat. Yeah. I agree. The mode that I played was their Extraction Royale, which some people are saying it's an extraction shooter, right? Where you go in, you've got a goal, and you need to find these cubes, which are essentially loot boxes, and you take those cubes and you go to a station around the map. And that station, if you are successfully able to extract it, depending on the rarity, it takes longer or shorter. And then once you've extracted, extracted the item, you can then, after the rounds, open it up and hopefully get like a cool item, which could be a weapon. It could be all sorts of stuff, different rarities, bunch of cosmetic items and stuff like that. And that's where the crypto NFTs come in. Loot box NFTs, my favorite. And that is supposedly the gameplay loop where you need to go and do these little extraction mechanics. The thing is, though, is that it's basically a battle royale. There's a circle, everyone gets pushed towards the center, and
weird.
Winner or loser. But because of that, and everyone's just fighting around the map, most people aren't actually fighting over the extraction stuff. And so you don't actually make any progression half the time because the actual game mode, which is a battle royale, has nothing to do with the actual... So it feels very tacked on, the extraction
totally part. Yeah, it sounds like they were like, we need to monetize this. What if we NFT'd it? And you know what I could see happening? So maybe they're making the game and all of a sudden their finances fall out, or the investors like, you know what, the Royale market's super saturated. This is never gonna fly. Mm-hmm. So the financial investment falls out, and they go, where can we get money from? Oh, hey, this NFT like dude wants to invest in the game, but he wants to make NFTs. How do we add NFTs into the game? And so they just wanted to finish the game and probably had to partner up with some NFT company to get it done, which
maybe
sucks. Possible. It's like a guaranteed way for your game to fail, basically.
I don't know much about the NFTs in it. I just know that I think what's going to be possible is you'll be able to spend money on these loot boxes, buy loot boxes from the market from people that may have extracted. Maybe I don't know exactly. Like I said, I don't know exactly how it works. But you'll be able to buy these loot boxes, which essentially will allow you to get potentially better items and better weapons and better gear that you can then, because once you get enough money in the actual match, because you find money around the map, you can then call in a loadout, and that loadout can be your super decked out gear that you've been getting through the loot boxes, and then you can go in and you can win the round like a normal battle royale. Yeah. And so I can kind of see how it's sort of an extraction game and then battle royale mix. That's why it's called an extraction royale. But it, like I said, it feels a little tacked on. It feels just like there's these, like, if that's really the main objective, why does it feel like no one's playing the main objective? And why is everyone just playing this like a battle royale? Could be growing pains. Could be they need to do a little bit better of onboarding. I don't know. But everyone that I was basically playing with was just shooting everyone that they came across, never going for the actual like side objectives like that. So the core gameplay, kind of fun. When you're actually able to not stutter all over the place, it's horribly optimized. I think the recommended is a 3060.
Yeah. Is it a UE5 game? I've just been seeing so many Unreal Engine 5 games drop with terrible optimization, and I think it's because Epic has marketed all of their high-end visual
it's Unreal 5.
Yeah. They market all their super high-end visual tools, and it's a pretty steep learning curve on how to actually optimize that and get them performant. So it looks good from the start, but it's not performant from the start. So you have to learn how to make it performant. And I think a lot of these devs go down the path of, look how good it looks, we'll optimize it later. And then they get to later and they're like, I don't know if we can actually optimize this anymore, or we can push it a little, but shoot, we should have tested that
much more
before we fully committed to some of these visual tools. Yeah, it's tricky. So that sucks. And it sucks that I've seen so many games come out with those same visual features that you're like, okay, but now your game runs at 40 FPS on my monster PC, which is not good.
Yeah. So I can't lie. All of the things like optimization, the NFTs really skeeve me out, and I think I might not even play it because of that reason. The gameplay, when it worked, was pretty enjoyable. Using the different abilities to fly around and jump around to get different positionings and then getting a cool flank off and succeeding in winning was gratifying. But it's really hard to critique a game when it's lagging and stuttering that badly on my 3080 Ti graphics card, because it just can't keep up.
Yeah. How does it feel to execute somebody whose arms and legs have been shot off?
Dude, the lore behind it is pretty screwed up. You're basically signing away, like you will die, but then they'll bring you back to life. And
Sick.
Yeah, it's wild.
Dude, it's like that guy in Avatar, and that's sort of spoiler if you haven't seen Avatar Dose, but like it made me think, I'm like, oh yeah, some of these guys who can be
guy.
If you can be reincarnated using that Avatar tech, but you don't know how many times you've been reincarnated, they're just, every time you wake up, they're like, oh man, you died that one time. So you're back. You want to keep running these missions for us? It's like, he's died 5,000 times or something, like.
Right.
It's a creepy idea for sure.
Yeah.
But cool.
So it's got some neat concepts. It's got some cool gameplay, but it also has a couple of giant red flags as well.
Yeah. There was, speaking of extraction shooters, I jumped into Exoborne, and full disclosure, it was for doing a sponsored video on it. I thought it looked cool, but I was skeptical at first because, it's an extraction shooter in 2024. What are the odds that it's going to be good? I jumped in and I thought it was pretty cool. It's like, again, you have these exosuits that you still have your limbs and legs, but you have an exoskeleton around you.
Yeah.
And it's like high mobility focused, which I kind of like because it's like this huge map in this post-apocalyptic future where there's like weather events and storm environments and tornadoes and lightning strikes and all this stuff. But then you have these exosuits and you can like grappling hook really quickly up to a building and then launch yourself from the grappling hook, open up like a paraglider and then like zip around. And so like the better you get at the movement mechanics, you can just traverse this map in this super cool, fast parkour way. And I like that a lot. And then it's just mixed in with like kind of cool modern shooter mechanics on top of that. Also the AI, some of them are a pushover. Some of them are clearly meant for you to kill quickly, but then you run into these like robot things and they just eviscerate you sometimes. If you're not, I wasn't ready for it the first time.
If you weren't prepared for it.
Yeah, you fight them like they're going to be any other sort of video game NPC. And you're like, I'll just take some cover, peek out and shoot them. And all of a sudden you're like, there's like 5 times more than when we started fighting them.
Me, and I'm dead.
Yeah, so I got killed by the NPCs a bunch before I started to realize like, oh, we need to like make a decision. Are we going to fight the robots or are we going to run away from them? And it's got extraction mechanic. I don't know if the levels are persistent or not. It's unclear whether when you spawn in, if people are already out and fighting or not. But you have to then call in like this sort of VTOL like aircraft that comes in and you get away with your gear, but it sort of alerts people if you're calling things in. And then there's like hotspots around the map that you want to go for. I was impressed by how quickly groups of players could run up on you because it's such a fast game where the movement's crazy fast that you look around, you do 360, you go, okay guys, we're clear. And like 10 seconds later, some group's like on you and you're like, oh my God, they must have just like parachuted in on us and just like murked us. And so the pacing was very different. And I like that. It felt unique amongst extraction shooters that are, normally a little more Tarkov-y, where you're like,
how are the environments? Was it where because it's a looter shooter, so you have to go and find loot. Was it actually interesting? Was it just like a barn?
I thought the environments were pretty well rendered and realized. It's again an Unreal Engine 5 game. Huge huge map, and then there's some barns, there's some outposts. It's clearly the fall of civilization, so it's like a city that's been like ransacked, and then the suburbs. Does it
feel lived in, or does it feel like this is a point of interest? This is a point of interest.
Yeah, I think it felt lived in. There's definitely some areas that look more like people had converted them to makeshift bases, and then other areas that were just like, this is a barn or something.
Right.
Yeah, it was cool. I want to learn more about the lore. The art seemed pretty darn good for it, and I don't know. I was just surprised. I was surprised to be surprised by an extraction shooter, going like, oh, I actually really like the flow and pacing of this right now. Like, I think got some good stuff going for it. So
cool.
Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed that. Also, I'm post pinball machine level now.
I got pinballs in your life.
My virtual pinball machine, and you know how much it weighed on the pallet, Matt?
As much as it cost.
450 pounds.
Good Lord. It's a big boy.
I had Natalie help me bring it into the house. Natalie, she's 4'11".
She's not. Yeah, I was gonna say she's not a giant lady.
There was a point during the bringing it in where it's like one of those we're too far to turn back moments, and
oh god, I can't hold on to this anymore. Kind of.
Yeah, it weighed almost 400 pounds on a dolly, and I was just like, if this goes down, it's like it's taking me with it. Like it's going to be bad. Yeah, we got it into the house, set it up. The machine is amazing. It is really cool. Playing pinball on it is fun. I had a lot more technical issues with it than I thought I was going to.
Oh, really?
Which kind of sucked. I'm sort of working around and figuring them out. But it's just one of those things where it's like, you'd expect something that big, that expensive to just kind of work nicely out of the box. But there's just it comes with like over 1,000 pinball tables, and some of them will just crash the unit. So you have to know which ones do. And so I've been learning that. But at the same time, I'm like, why would you guys install a table that doesn't work?
That doesn't work. Yeah, that seems... I'm assuming you've contacted them.
I've chatted with them a bit. I have to have a second sort of troubleshooting session with them because there's some other issues with it. But it's sort of one of these niche realms where they're selling predominantly the hardware and the build. So they're selling you this incredible piece of hardware, and the software is mostly community developed. And so within that realm, they're kind of like, well, it's community software at this point. I think they feel a little less obligated to make all that stuff work since it's open source and not their software. So that said, that aside, we've been playing crap loads of pinball on it, and man, there's like we've been working our way through the Lord of the Rings trilogy again, as we do once every several years.
As you do.
And the Lord of the Rings pinball table, which I have played at pinball arcades before, it's a great table. On this one is fantastic. Like it's dope.
The kids liking it?
Oh yeah, the kids love it. My youngest Lily likes the Elvis pinball table. She's like into that because she knows some of the Elvis songs. And then Jeff, my older kid, he'll cycle through hundreds of tables until he picks one. He's just like, whoa, that's cool. He breaks it all the time because he's finding all the weird pinball tables that nobody's updated for like the last 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And it's got ancient like 50s era or 60, I don't know when pinball was invented, but really old tables, like 50s, 60s era. And I found some cool ones. There's like a Cuphead pinball table, which I think is based on a custom pinball machine that the devs had built in Cuphead style for like their studio or something.
Yeah.
And so somebody made it as a virtual pinball table, and it's incredible. It's like really cool. It's designed in the old school style, but it's got all the Cuphead art on it and stuff. I feel like I've only looked through 5% of the tables that the thing offers, and I'm still like,
does it feel like you're physically playing pinball?
It's like 80% of the way there. So inside of the machine, and I have seen it because I've had to open it up like 3 times now. The hardware is pure insanity. It's got 10 solenoid motors mounted on the exterior of the plywood walls. They go all the way down, and then it's got surround sound speakers that are basically aiming into the wood to create reverberation around the table. And so the combination of these solenoids and surround sounds placed around the table trigger when the ball moves, say, across the table. You can hear the sound of the ball rolling from the left side to the right side. If it bunks into a wall or hits a bumper, the solenoids go off and vibrate the tables. There's special devices. Most pinball tables have different whirring motor devices that create a different sound. There's a custom whirring motor in the machine. There's like another custom vibration motor in the machine. The flippers have their own, I don't even know what's inside. It's some sort of servo or something that activates. So you feel a tactile response from the ball doing everything. And it is very crazy. Now, there's a couple little new... It also has a full plunger that's like completely hooked up. So you pull the plunger back with the same force and let it go with the same force, and it shoots the pinball into the table. Having played a lot of real pinball recently, there's a couple little nuances that I'm like, the difference between hitting a plunger, hitting the flippers on my table and a real one is you can notice the tactile force a little bit less when you're actually hitting the pinball and stuff like that. I actually want to look into tweaking some of this stuff because you can adjust the dials on everything. So you can adjust the sound, you can adjust the motor stuff, you can really dial it in if you want to. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm like getting into the software side of it. It's got 3 amplifiers inside of the machine that control like back glass, the subs, like all this other stuff, and you can adjust them and tune them. The back glass is insane because it's a monitor, but I don't know if you've played pinball recently, but back glass in a pinball it's usually an image with lights behind it. And so it'll light up, like it'll be like Addams Family, and it'll light up the characters in different ways. And sometimes those lights will go on and off, creating different effects. But the monitor that they picked for the back glass creates that effect exactly. Like you look at it and it looks like real back glass, and then that back glass changes depending on the table that you pick, and it's all the original artwork out there. It looks incredible.
Nice.
Like it's really cool.
So are you happy with it?
Yes, I am. Overall, I'm very happy with it. Disappointed that I had to do so much troubleshooting, but I know I can get past that and make it a more stable experience and delete tables that crash it or fix them or whatever, but just annoyed that wasn't all taken care of before I got it, more or less.
Cool.
It's dope. Oh, it's also got a real tilt bob inside of it. So it's a real pinball tilt bob, which is the device used to make sure you don't tilt the machine too much. And if you tilt it too much, it'll end your pinball game for you. And when I got it, of course, after shipping, it was misaligned a little bit. So it was
constantly.
It wasn't constantly, but like there was some games where it's just like tilt, end game, and I'm playing. I'm like, I didn't even touch the machine. What are you talking about? So went in there, had to like adjust it a bit and tweak it, but it's cool. They try, and it's got a real coin insert too. They've used as many real parts as they could before going fully digital with it. The screen is insane. 49-inch, 120 hertz industrial display. So it's like not even taken
really
out of
duty.
It's not taken out of a monitor. It's like if you were putting a display up in some sort of convention center and they're like, we need a display that's meant to last forever. You get the industrial
People might be
grade.
touching it and it's going to get banged up a bit.
Yeah. So it's got the hardware is really impressive. Like they did not cheap out on the hardware. Aside from a computer with an MSI motherboard, it's my only critique.
My only critique.
But you know what? I've just had a few MSI products in the past that have died, and I'm just like, never again, But I feel like everybody feels that way about a certain brand.
Be fine.
Yeah. Did I take pictures of the internal? Says Atif in the comments. Yeah, I did. I'm going to have a full video on this thing. The internal really is insane. Like, I thought it was going to be simpler than a real pinball machine, and granted, it probably is. but when you open it, it's just like circuit boards, tons of wires and cable guides everywhere, like 20 motors, speakers all over the place, amplifiers, and you're just like, okay. It looks, I mean, like I could learn how to make a car quicker than this thing. It's insane.
Sounds cool though.
Yeah, it's dope. Yeah, so it's fun for the whole family. We've been loving it, and I want to go play it. Actually, go play that Lord of the Rings table. Work on my strategy.
That's all that matters. Having a good time.
It's good. It's good stuff. How excited are you about the new Destiny Rising mobile game, Matt?
So excited.
Yeah.
So I mean, it looks good visually.
Sure.
I don't play mobile games. I don't really know mobile market.
Yeah.
It visually looks fantastic. I don't understand. Do you have like 0 battery life once you play a game like that? Like, how long does the battery last?
I don't touch anything that resembles a first-person shooter on mobile because it's the worst possible interface I can imagine for that.
You see kids and they're just fragging out and they're just somehow making it work on their screen. They're shooting and moving, and
I got a brother-in-law that's like all about PUBG Mobile, and he plays it on his iPad and stuff. And I'm just like, you have a computer, just play it on the computer.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So I don't know, man. I don't understand the market, but I guess Bungie like licensed the IP to a completely different company and was like, sure, you can make a mobile Destiny game.
I didn't realize that was another company that made it.
I believe it's fully licensed, and it's some other mobile. I forgot what the company is, but anyway,
it's interesting that it's going to be first person and third person, which I did not expect.
Yeah, I'm mostly just surprised because Destiny fans haven't been super happy with the franchise, and then the next announcement for a Destiny game is mobile, which I imagine the hardcore fan base is not overly thrilled with. But I actually saw the response to the announcement, and it seemed to be pretty mixed, where you had the typical Destiny fanboys going like, I don't want this crap, like give me Destiny 3, and then some other people that were like, actually this looks pretty darn cool, like I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm gonna play this.
I mean, for people that like that like mobile, then let them enjoy it. But I probably won't be touching it.
Yeah. I tried to find some Steam Next Fest games that I liked, but I didn't find any. Did you find any good ones?
I played the Precinct, which is it was really interesting. So you basically start off as just like a recruit, or not a recruit, but like, you're
first person, third, whatever.
So it's top down.
Okay.
And so it's literally top down, and you will be moving throughout a city. It teaches you. So what it seems like it's eventually going to lead up to is it will kind of just let you play probably, and you'll have like quests and stuff like that you might have to accomplish. But you'll need to maybe walk around and be like, oh, that's a guy who's parked illegally, or that guy over there is doing something illegal. And then you have to act accordingly based off of like the rules and regulations that, you're supposed to live by as a cop, and then act accordingly. So you might eventually get up to them and arrest them. You might have to read them their rights. You might have to do all these different things, get their photo ID. It doesn't get to that point because it was just a demo. But it started off really strong. I was actually pretty impressed by what I saw.
Mm-hmm. I do remember what this is now. I just Googled it, and I saw the initial footage of it, and I was like, "Whoa, this looks cool." It's almost got like OG Grand Theft Auto vibes to an extent. But I'm curious. So you are playing. It's like cop simulator to a degree.
Yeah,
you
pretty much.
Go around and enforce the law, but I assume some bigger story unfolds from all that.
I would assume so. Though, just a little tip. So there's a moment in the demo where you have to like melee someone. You get into a fight, right? You're supposed to block and everything. They've got a red bar, or I don't know if it's a red bar or blue bar, some sort of bar. If it reaches 0, they die. Yeah. So I had like a suspect on the ground who was, being rambunctious, and I just kept hitting them because
he was resisting.
Yeah, he was resisting, and then I killed him on accident because I thought it was.
Oh my god,
it was terrible.
So it's it's real cop simulator.
Like, I think I'm the bad guy. I am a horrible person because I legitimately thought it was like.
And then you're holding him down, and there's a crowd around you, and they're like,
there wasn't a crowd, okay, but it was definitely not a good look.
Oh my God.
It was definitely trying to learn the game for sure.
Yeah, and you just beat your suspect to death.
Just beat him to death. Yeah,
and while yelling, "Stop resisting!" Right? You're like, "Stop resisting!" And then you're like, "You see that? He kept resisting, everybody."
Yep.
Yeah, that's
other than little awkward moments like that.
Yeah,
I think it's got a really interesting premise, and I'm excited to see what the full game will have to offer. Because it's very cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of old school. Like the cop cars are old school and stuff, or not like old timey, but I'd say 80s era police cars or something like that.
I think it's in the 80s. Yeah, great soundtrack too.
Cool. Yeah, I'm curious about it. I kind of like there seems to be a resurgence on like almost GTA style era games. Top down seem to be coming back in a bigger way right now. Mm-hmm. And I think people are just sort of appreciating how accessible those types of games can feel. And also they just look so much better with like modern game graphics and stuff. There's like a whole indie scene that's really building out some cool looking top down games. There's one that's like an off-roading, or it's like a it's like off-road exploration where you have to like drive your little 4x4 Jeep or whatever around, and you'll get stuck in swamps and stuff, and like have to acquire gear and put the right stuff down so you can like drive over through mud stuff. And I'm like, this just looks fun. It's like, it just has a casual vibe to it, but it seems like they're not really losing a lot of the gameplay elements that you would expect that you could only get in like a first person game or something. They're like, no,
Do you know
can.
What it's called?
That one? No, I'll have to look it up. I follow the dev on Twitter and he's still working on it, but it looks cool. Yeah.
Nice. I also played a demo called Stranova. Have you heard of that game?
I've heard of it. I don't know.
It's an anime third person shooter.
Stranova.
And what's unique about it, other than you play as cute waifus, cute anime girls, is that, which is obviously the only selling point that I need, right? That's because I'm just a degenerate, I guess. What's interesting is that you can go 2D, right? Because it's anime. Oh. So you'll be fighting someone, and then they can go 2D, and their entire character model becomes like a paper thin, and they can angle themselves. So then now you're trying to shoot at a 2D object in the world, where if they're angling at the right angle to you, it's very difficult to hit them. It also allows you to become 2D and fly because you're just a paper, and so you can kind of like glide to different locations, which is kind of cool. And you can also attach yourself to walls and then move up and down the wall like you're on a 2D plane, right?
Yeah,
which is cool. It's a cool theory, and also cool in practice. It's fine. It's the gameplay itself is okay. It's fine.
Yeah,
standard. It's straight up stealing Overwatch maps.
Oh, is it?
Like 100%. I was on a map and I was like, wait a second. This is Gibraltar. Watchpoint Gibraltar, I think is what it's called, from Overwatch. I literally was able to, I started walking around the map while everyone else was fighting. It was also the same payload system where you have to like defend and either defend or push the payload. And I was like, all right, chat. I've never been on this map before. Legitimately. This is the first time I'm playing on this map. And I was like, there's a bridge off to the left, and there's going to be a big opening in the center, and there's going to be a little door on the left as well. And what, lo and behold, it was exactly as I called out, because it's exactly Overwatch's 2 Gibraltar. It was
That's pretty
kind
bad,
of gross.
Man. I'm getting really tired of all the copy and pasting going on. Not just on these weird little indie games, but also on like big games like Delta Force, like just how blatantly copied they did with like a lot of Battlefield stuff, and even Call of Duty weapon animations being 100% identical and stuff like that. You're just like, why has this become acceptable? I think the game companies just don't want to deal with a lawsuit or something, but they just keep pushing it.
I don't know.
I don't like supporting companies or projects that do it. You know, it makes me feel bad, especially when a game is good. And I'm like, this game's good. Let me tell you guys about it. Also, it's kind of just copying this whole thing from this other game and not giving any credit.
Copy a map though, to like be playing another game and then be like, wait a second, this is over. Like legitimately, it's Overwatch.
Yeah.
They even have, in Watch Point Gibraltar, where there's like that interior section with a giant ship. They have a ship there. It doesn't look exactly like it, but it's clearly like a ship.
Oh my God. It's disappointing. Now, let me ask you a question about this game, Matt. Can you only play hot chicks?
No, there are dudes too.
Okay. Yeah. I'm looking at the Steam page and there's not a single dude in this.
There's not many of them. There's only a couple, but there are technically dudes that you can play.
And they all have like Sailor Moon type hair, like long flowing blonde hair, all done up and wearing loose sleeve clad.
They're all super cute anime girls for sure.
Yeah. With machine guns, and then they fight each other.
And then say goofy things when they die.
Oh man. All right. I mean, I feel so old as a gamer now, where I'm just like, I don't understand any of this stuff. With the kids these days.
Yeah. So it had like a unique premise with the whole 2D mechanic where you can swap in and out of that. That's kind of cool.
That's cool. But is it better than Nike Goddess of Victory?
I've never played that. You accuse me of playing that. I've never played that.
Do you like the anime girls more in this game or in Goddess of Victory?
I've never played it. Levelcap, I don't know. But I gotta say, those Nike Goddess of Victory girls are, now that I'm looking at them.
Yeah, I'm like, is this mobile? I'll get it on my phone. I'll play this one.
Can I get this in a body pillow?
Oh man. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you played some good games for the next fest.
Yeah, definitely the highlight though was Precinct for sure.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it a lot.
Cool. You read any good books? Any good movies?
I've been watching Bad Monkey, which is on Apple TV. So I've been enjoying that. It has what is his name? I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it basically follows a kind of a weird detective who is it's a comedy drama sort of thing. It has Vince Vaughn is the main detective, and it's kind of quirky, goofy drama about a detective who's down on his luck because he wants to do the right thing, but he always does it the wrong way, which gets him into trouble. And it's just a fun little story. So I've been enjoying it.
Cool.
But that's nothing like insane.
Yeah. We watched the Beetlejuice, the second Beetlejuice movie. I thought it was good. It wasn't like, oh my God, you have to see it, but it did a really good job of capturing kind of what I remember as like a 90s era film, where it felt like a lot of it was done with sets and practical effects. And it kind of had this sort of like, we want you to believe that this is a real place and a real town, but we're also going to kind of camp it up a little bit with some extra fog machines and just give it like, that movie Hocus Pocus?
Yeah.
It's kind of got like that vibe where it feels real, but also like you're watching a play or something like that. And it's got great musical bits in it. Michael Keaton's incredible in it. Like I've never seen anybody slide back into a role so flawlessly. Yeah, because you're expecting like how many years later is this? It's a
lot.
Like 30 or 40 years later. It's like insane. Yeah. But yeah, he's just Beetlejuice again, and he's very funny in it, and the movie's quite funny.
1988. It was when I was born.
Yeah. It's a long time. That's almost, that's a good time. That's a good amount of time.
He's 73.
Dude, you wouldn't know it because that's what I was thinking going into it. I'm like, this is going to be like ancient actor, like trying to like hobble around, and you don't even think it for a second. You're just like, oh, there's Beetlejuice doing all that funny Beetlejuice stuff.
All that Beetlejuice things, yeah.
Yeah. It was good. I enjoyed it. There's a couple characters that felt like I didn't even understand why they were in the movie. Like Willem Dafoe is there as sort of this.
Willem Dafoe's in it?
Yeah, he's like a dead detective. And I think they just thought that would be really fun and then tried to work him into the script a bit. And you're like, yeah, he almost didn't even need to be there, but he was kind of a fun character, but he has very little tie-overs with the main story for like the vast majority of the film. So they just keep doing cutaways to Willem Dafoe doing kooky stuff on the side.
As he does.
Yeah. But I thought it was really good. It's Tim Burton again. It's the original cast. It's very funny, really well put together. I recommend it. It's a good popcorn movie, you know?
Nice.
Yeah. Yep-a-rooney. Well, as tempted as I am to just talk Star Citizen for, the next 2 hours.
Well, because I know you're going to be making a big video about it.
Yeah, my brain is Star Citizen fried, man.
I can imagine.
It's been nonstop, but you want to wrap up the old Potteroonie?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, you want to give the people what they've been waiting for, Matt, with your your advice.
Okay, so this is a little bit more of a long one. When you're starting an excavation project on your property and you come across, and you're digging down, you come across large cables underneath your property. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to call probably your local government or whoever you need to figure out what those cables are before you cut them.
That's right. In fact, most places have a number that's pretty well advertised. In Washington State, it is 811. You call it, and then they will tell you what to do. And you follow their directions, because if you don't, and then you cut a bunch of cables, potentially a big lawsuit could be following you.
Yeah.
So
that's my advice.
Yep. Especially in states and areas that have lots of wind and they bury a lot of the power lines and cables. And guess what? Fiber cables, they can't do on phone lines because they cannot bend or they will break. And then you will lose fiber internet. So they bury fiber cables.
How do they bend the fiber optic cables? Because they have to bend at some point.
Yeah, they can bend a certain amount. But I don't think they hang fiber cables. I think they're all buried for the most part.
I think they probably are all buried, yeah.
Yep. So call those numbers. Figure out if you have the ability to dig down in your backyard and how far. And call before you dig. That's the rule. Good advice, Matt. Thank you guys all so much for watching the pod. Again, if you want to check us out on Patreon, there's a link down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Peace out.
Take care.